Hey, it's Navid here, and in this session, we are going to get into how to not write a book with ChatGPT, which is really interesting. And I have Cameron Sutter from Plottr here. They are a sponsor of this summit series, AI for Creators, and I'm really thankful for them to come on board to help the event. And also, I'm bringing them on here to share some great value with you around book writing. Their software helps to outline a book, and they have some AI features as well coming. But we thought we would showcase how ChatGPT and AI tools can work in synergy with their tool as well. I mean, when you're writing a book, that's such a big project, right? So you want to make sure you're doing it right. And that's why I brought Cameron on board here. So warm welcome.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So why don't we get in a little bit to this? Tell me how you got your start with, in general, with books, and how you got into AI and why you think that's such a game changer for authors who want to speed up their workflow and not get unstuck and all of that.
Yeah, so I've been writing on and off my whole life. And at some point, almost 10 years ago, I started making a software just to make my own process, my own writing of books better. And it turned out that other people think the way I do. And so it's been able to help a lot of people. And then we started hearing a lot about AI, and writers got scared. Actually, there was a lot of anger and fear around that, it's going to take over their jobs. So we started digging into that because it's important, and, technology keeps moving forward. It never stops. And so we looked into it and we're like, this has a lot of potential for us. So we've been learning about it and thinking how it can be used for our writers, and there's so many things that we can do with writers now, or as writers, to use AI to help us.
Yeah, so why don't we talk about that a little bit? So before, there's a lot of tasks you needed to do, like outlining your book and even the writer's block that can come into play. So maybe give us an overview of what the different things AI can help an author with. And as a creator, you should probably consider writing a book at some point. I know I am. I mean, I have a lot of content, so I could turn it into books. So I'm interested, kind of from an expert here, to know what can AI be utilized for, and what have you seen the most efficient way forward?
Yeah. To give an overview, I'm going to talk about how to overcome writer's block with AI, how it can help you to develop your characters better, your settings, where the story takes place, scene ideas, plotting, plot twists, and then some other tools to make sure that you get a original, a unique book that's not just
Okay.
one off the shelf.
Yeah, I love it. So let's get into that. I know you have some screen sharing, so we can actually get into ChatGPT, and then I'm sure you have some things around Plotter as well to see kind of how they can work together and how you can actually do things a lot faster and better. So I'm gonna let you get in here to the screen sharing. I know you have ChatGPT. I know we talked before. You had a company account with probably the Plus plan, so bear with us. This is
Yeah.
a 3.5 you're sharing here, but you will get better
Yeah.
output if you have a 4. So I'm just gonna, for everyone, as a disclaimer here, you should probably have the Plus plan if you're doing anything like that.
Yeah, you should. And I thought I was logged into my company account, but I guess not. So I'm just on my own, the 3.5. So can you see my screen now?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we got Chat GPT open here, and then on the side here, I've got notes. You can keep notes wherever you want, in a Google Doc or a Word doc or something like that. For now, I'm just using Apple Notes. We're just going to paste some things in here as we go, so we don't lose them. There's a lot of things in your story that you want, so we're going to keep them here in our notes to the side here. But
Yep.
first of all, we're going to talk about overcoming writer's block. There's a certain fear for writers around seeing a blank page. What do I come up with next? Where's my idea start? So I've got a bunch of ideas here for you to help you overcome that. And first, we're just going to start with something really simple. And actually, before I do that, I want to kind of preface my prompts. I kind of give some ideas for how you use prompts for writing in general. So you always want to start with what role you're going to tell ChatGPT it is. So there's a couple here that I'll show you that I've seen other authors use that are successful. So this one is, you are a New York Times bestselling author. The genre there we're going to fill in, and your task is to write genre stories in vivid and intriguing language. So if you start your prompts off with that, it works a lot better for writing fiction and nonfiction also. So we'll just pick a genre. Do you have one that you want to go with? Navid, or should we just
Yeah, I mean,
should I
we
just choose one?
can pick like entrepreneurship, personal development, or something like that, which I'm
Okay.
kind of very well versed into. I think it's interesting because if you have a lot of content online, it's gonna be a lot easier to write your book. You can feed that to the AI basically, or upload it, or you, create something like
Yeah.
that with instructions. So you are basically, they are gonna learn more about you, and you can write it into in sections essentially. So that's how I would do it if I would go into ChatGPT to write my book. I would take a lot of my content, train ChatGPT on my style, and then start basically the writing process. I mean, that's probably the best way, I would say.
Yeah. If you've got content that you already have been writing on a blog or something like that, yeah, you're going to be miles ahead. You just kind of paste it in there and it can organize your stuff way better. But so this is for, if you're just starting out, if you want to write a book, but you don't know where to start, that writer's block is really going to hit you hard. So this is one example of how to do it. I'm going to show you another one that I've seen a lot of people use. So that's, you're an author assistant for a New York Times bestselling author. You can start that way as well. And that gets you good results. But I'm going to go back to this other one that we had so you're a New York Times bestselling personal development author, and your task is to write stories in vivid and intriguing language. So then what you can do is, so actually my plan was more around fiction, at least for this first part, to show them that. So I'm going to choose like a sci-fi author, and then we'll get into the personal development.
Yeah. I
That's
think
really
I
good.
think I don't have too many. The reason I choose that because I probably don't have too many fiction. I mean, who knows? Maybe I do, but I don't think I have too many fiction
Yeah.
authors in my audience. That's why I was like, okay, maybe something different. Maybe in the health or parenting, or it can be any topic. To be honest, I don't care.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so one thing you can do is you can ask it for pieces of the story. And so we're going to ask here, what are the expected tropes for a sci-fi novel? And then give me at least, I don't know, 10 tropes. And so this will actually help you to, oh, well, that's funny. So this will actually help you to find out what parts of the story you should write. And actually, we're going to do the same thing. I wonder what it'll come up with personal development, if there's tropes, personal
I mean,
development.
I probably is very broad. Probably need something more specific. I think like something that you have clearly a topic in mind that you want to write about. Personal development, you can write about anything. There's a lot within that, or within business, for example. So I would
Yeah.
go more specific for sure.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Let's see. Is there one that you're interested in that you want to use?
For example, you can maybe I would write about how to, let's say, I would write how to become a global citizen, how to become a digital nomad, or something like this. I mean, that's
Oh,
maybe
yeah, there you go.
a fitting one.
Yeah.
I
So
have
let's see
even
if
a
there's
guide like that
any.
on my site. I could probably expand on that guide from my website. So I'm just thinking, I have a few guides like that. So I could probably turn that into a pretty in-depth book.
Yeah. And so here we go. There's even tropes for nonfiction books like Digital Nomad. So this gives you like a list of things. And this is really great to give you ideas. And that's the idea for this breaking writer's block, is getting ideas. And so with ChatGPT and other AI tools, you don't want to just say, give me one idea. You want to get a bunch of ideas. That's kind of the secret to it there.
That's what it's really good at in general for ideation. And I've heard that from a lot of people. That's how I use it myself a lot. I don't always use it for every component in the writing. I use it as an assistant. When I get stuck or when I need something, I kind of write it. I don't like, or if I need the breakdown of a format for something, like I have an email, or I have a blog post, something, or a social media post that I like, or something I've written, I break that down. And ChatGPT is really good at doing that. When it comes to like longer pieces, you have to be a little bit careful. You have to kind of do it in segments. You're not just gonna write your book in one go. It's gonna be, a little bit, a little bit of a process, as I'm sure you will showcase here.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. You don't want it. You can't just type in one prompt and get a whole book out of it.
Yeah,
It's a
and then
process that
the
kind of
tip that I
builds on
would probably,
itself.
how I would probably do this myself, because this is the title of the session, is how to not use ChatGPT to write your book, right? So I would
Yeah.
probably not use it for the entire book, if I'm going to be honest. I know you can do that. I just my opinion. I would probably get interviewed, and I would transcribe that, and I'll actually just use my, yeah, because it's my words. I prefer having my words in my book rather than something that he might make up. I mean, I know you can upload stuff if you have it, but I think even as a new author, getting interviewed, about the process that you're teaching or that you're sharing is very efficient, because then you can get the transcript from, let's say, Descript or whatever service you're using to transcribe all of this. Then you can get it into the AI and then start writing. It's like much, much better experience, to be honest.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's a really good way. And you hit on something important there. You wouldn't use it to write your book because it's going to come out robotic and not human sounding.
Yeah,
But it can
I
help
would add
you.
a lot. I need to have my personal touch. That's what we don't need more books in this world. We don't need more content that is robotic, that is basically plain crap. It's not good. It's
Right.
garbage. That's kind of garbage in, garbage out. Like, I think even if you're going through this process, you're getting ideas. You have to go through a very very long process to do it with ChatGPT. And I think you can do this, but if you have your own words, like from a transcript from that you have actually done an audio or a video about something, maybe let's say Cameron interviewed me about my process to become how I became a digital nomad. That could be like a 2-3 hour, maybe 4 hour video, like sharing everything. That's a lot of words. That's probably a book, right? I don't know how many book you would recommend someone have. I mean, that's something we can cover as well. What is a typical book in the nonfiction space? What would you say?
Yeah. So it's actually there. Nonfiction is really wide open. It could be as short or as long as you want. Some that are really long. And honestly, the longer you get, it's probably worse. You want to keep it on the
Depends on
shorter end.
I'd say unless you're Robert Greene or someone, I would read his books any day. I love his books like Mastery
True.
and a lot of the other ones he wrote. But they're so long. They're like a few hundred pages. But I think in the business
Yeah.
space, maybe like 100 to 200 pages, something like this. I think if it's
Somewhere
like
around there.
I think it's if they're a publisher, usually they are a little bit longer. They're like maybe 200 or something like that usually, and 200 to 300. But if you're self-published, you can choose any level basically.
Yeah. Any length you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
So one way that you can get ideas for your book here, I've got another prompt. So you can use it to get situations for you. Since we're going with the digital nomad here, what's 10 possible digital nomad situations that could happen? Pick a place, like, I don't know. First thing that came to mind is Barcelona for some reason.
Yeah, Barcelona, Bali is a great place for a lot of digital
Yeah.
nomads. I like
And then you want to be,
there's many. I think that's also why I would share, like in a book like this, I would share my experiences of these places, right? I would share very vividly
yeah,
my personal experiences. No one else can share these experiences because I have lived this experience, right? I mean, there's other people who have traveled there, but this is my personal story. So I think that's quite important to highlight.
yeah. And that's what you were saying earlier. You wouldn't have ChatGPT write it because it doesn't have the experiences that you have. And you want to write
unless you gave ChatGPT this information to actually make it better, to rewrite what you have, or maybe because that you need to give ChatGPT some information about yourself. The more details, the better. But you need to add your touches to this. I think that's what's important, so it doesn't sound, as you said before, as a robot. That's kind of how you wouldn't want your book to read, because this book is something
right.
that's gonna stay, hopefully, for a lifetime or something like that, or for very long. On the interwebs, on Amazon, or wherever you publish this.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So just to get some ideas, and this might spark memories actually, because maybe you don't remember all the places you've been, but maybe this will actually spark memories.
Yeah.
But so give me some sort of event here, some holiday or something that they have in Spain.
Oof.
The running the bulls. I mean, that's the common one. But
You mean like a good place to go or something? Or like in Barcelona, I haven't personally lived too long. I have been in other places a lot, but mostly lived in London, Dubai. I lived in Bali for a little bit. I lived in Medellin. I lived all over, but Barcelona, I was just like
oh,
1-2 months. So I don't have, was up many years ago.
oh, okay. Okay, we'll just use Christmas because that seems to be a popular. I don't know if they even celebrate that in Spain, but so what are 10
Sure they
possible
do.
situations?
Latin countries, they
Yeah,
celebrate Christmas.
that's what I figured. Yeah. So there you go. There's 10 ideas. And again, you don't want to just come up with one idea for you. You want it to give you multiple ideas because you're going to need your own judgment to sculpt what it gives you. And so here's 10 ideas. And maybe some of these have happened to you. Maybe you can look at them, remote yoga session. I don't know, collaborative coding challenge, virtual holiday party. Maybe that's happens. Maybe oh yeah, I had that one experience when I had the holiday party and I couldn't make it. It was during COVID or something. So I was able to, do it online stuff. So this could spark memories for you. It could give you ideas and things like that.
Cool.
So we could just copy and paste these. We'll just put them in our notes here. The one thing about ChatGPT and all AIs is their context window. And so once you start using a lot of content, then it's going to forget what you talked about earlier.
Now
So we
it's
got to,
longer, but I don't know if they added that yet. For the plus plan is 128,000,
yeah,
which is like similar to Claude. Claude has 100,000, Claude.ai. But
yeah.
with ChatGPT is 128K. I don't know what is on the, but I don't know if they have rolled it out to everyone yet, because I've figured, for me at least, it's pretty slow right now. Even on the plus plan, it's really, really slow sometimes. So maybe they haven't.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. A lot of
Yeah,
users
maybe I
and
haven't.
a lot of people are testing their new custom GPTs and things
Yeah.
like that. Actually,
Well, I
that
think
would be
just
interesting
yesterday,
for, I would probably create something like that. If I had a process down to write my books, I could create like a custom GPT to feed my knowledge into that, or for example, I have a lot of stuff on my website, and just
yeah, your
have
blog.
this
Yeah.
ask me a series of questions in order to pull out the information they need to write the outline, write everything I need for, let's say, the chapters and things like that. And maybe later I would fill out a little bit about some extra stuff that I would need for the book.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And we'll get to plotting out chapters and stuff in a little bit, but
Yeah.
this is again just the writer's block part of it, and trying to help you pull out of you what your experiences are and things. So we could do. So this is another prompt that we use, and we can adapt it from a novel to digital nomad story premise. Oh wait, sorry, this goes here. Digital nomad personal development book. I spelled that wrong over here. Again, you want to ask for multiple here. And when you use, so you can use what you've already got from it. So instead of just asking it to come up with something new, you can say, okay, I like outdoor co-working with a view. So let's copy and paste this and say, something that we found actually is one way to kind of tell it the beginning and end of certain things. You can put in this, that kind of says, okay, here's my ideas. So you want to say includes these ideas, and then tell it, here's the ideas and here's the end of the ideas. So then this will come up with 10 premises for a book about that one thing that we copy and pasted here. So here's 10 ideas about that could be the premises for a book that you want to write. Embracing nature for productivity, a nomad's guide to work-life harmony, nomadic mindfulness revolution, a bunch of them. So here's a bunch of ideas that we can take, and maybe one of these is where we want to take this. I'm just going to paste that there. And then you can take one of these ideas and write a more detailed novel summary for each one of these, or book summary. So then here's another big prompt here that we have to, in each one of these, you have to fill out pieces from your last. So it builds on each other, on itself. You get one piece from it and you take that and you add on to it, which I'm sure you've seen, Navid. I'm sure you're familiar with that, but
you have to go in steps basically, because otherwise it's not going to get the best result. I think that's also why even if you are starting from scratch, as I said, if you have the time and you're comfortable speaking, I think get interviewed, because you get so many words in a sitting. I think it just saves time. Why do these companies that publish books for people usually interview them? They do it for them. Basically, it's a process, and they just interview them. They have a set of questions, and they get all the info they need, basically, and they don't need to do that much. That's kind of how others, they might ghostwrite it for them, but that's a process to pull out the information from someone. I think it's really useful.
right, yeah, this can become your ghostwriter. You just get
It
interviewed
is
and
basically
then
your ghostwriter, ChatGPT in this case, right? But you
yeah,
need to make sure you give it the right information. I think that's because otherwise
yeah,
it's gonna be bland. It's gonna be like a robot, as you mentioned before. That's what I mean. I've seen a lot of people, because again, this is not how to not try use ChatGPT to write your book. I think a lot of people are just using it to write their book and publish it really quickly. I think you can do that. You can publish a book probably in a few days if you wanted to, or even some people do it in one day, which is maybe not advisable, and they publish it on topics
Right.
they're not an expert on. I think then it becomes a problem when you are not an expert on the topic you are trying to write a book on. You need to be knowledgeable about what you're writing about. Otherwise, what's the point, right? It's an author.
Right.
You need to have authority of what you're speaking about. It comes from the word author. So
Yeah. Yeah. I never thought about that, but yeah, it's got to come from your experience. Yeah, exactly.
yeah, that's what it is. And I think people are just like, if you're just using ChatGPT for all the knowledge, it's the same if you're creating a course only with ChatGPT or AI. It's not your knowledge unless you actually add your knowledge to it. You can have an outline, you can do all of this with ChatGPT and you can refine it. But I think that's kind of where it stops. You need to add your experiences to the AI to actually get it to be sounding like you. That's the most important thing.
Yes. Yeah. It's gotta sound like you, sound like human, not a robot. Yeah.
Yeah. And not only like a human, but it needs to be your experiences and your knowledge and your process, especially if it's like, I mean, with fiction, I'm not so versed in that space. You know much more of this since you have been publishing there. But for the audience here, I think most people are interested maybe in nonfiction and publishing a book around their experience. And then it is important that you have the knowledge, just not using ChatGPT for the knowledge, because it's basically scouting the web, what's readily available. But that doesn't mean it's what you have said, right? So that's why you need to add your input and knowledge into that. So it's actually writing based on your experience or helping you as an assistant.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so we're gonna give us a more detailed outline here. Okay. We just copied one of these. I just chose a random one and we're going to give it this prompt here. And it's going to give us 4 paragraphs, more detailed book. And so if this is an experience you've had and you're familiar with this, then you're able to start fleshing out your story here. But the thing is, it's not going to have your exact experiences and you're going to have to put in your own pieces of it.
Yeah.
Your own piece of the story.
Yeah, that's why. Here's what I would do. Like, since you weren't on the plus plan here, and I would recommend, if you're doing a bigger project like a book, for sure should be there. Because why? You can actually add custom instructions into ChatGPT, and then you can add your bio. You can add some context already when you're starting. Now we don't have as much of this, which is maybe not advisable when you're doing a big book project. So I would have custom instructions like adding your bio, adding some details, adding like kind of the style, so they know how are you talking. Like, do you start with, hey there, or how do you actually talk to your audience? Also kind of the tone of voice and things like that you can add in. Yes, you can add that in the bigger prompts for sure, but it's nice to have it already there. So it's kind of keeping that in mind through the context window you have when you're speaking to the AI.
Yeah, and it's so amazing because that's a recent thing. Just a few months ago, we couldn't have had that huge context window. It was very small before.
Yeah.
So it's always changing.
But even then, I think it's advisable to have like, in smaller bursts, because a book is pretty long, right? So you're not going to write it. It's going to be pretty bad if you're writing it in one go. I think it's like with anything in this case, you need to go in steps, and that's kind of how you get the best output. So it doesn't, otherwise you might start hallucinate, and different things along the way.
Yeah, some of the YouTube books I've watched, or YouTube videos I've watched about writing a book. Yeah. One of them was talking about how, okay, you've got 2,000 words and that's a good book. Like, wait, 2,000 words, that's maybe 10 pages if that, something
maybe
like
that's
that.
Like a lead magnet or something like that for something, right? It could be a lead magnet, but like, that's not a book. I mean, I wouldn't consider it a book that you would actually be proud of to have on Amazon or something like that. No, that's probably not what you would like say. Hey, I'm an author. Are you a best-selling author with a 2,000 word book? I don't know.
I don't think so. Yeah. I don't think you get it with like 10 pages. So.
Yeah. So let's continue with this. It's good.
Yeah. So then here's a more detailed, and you could take this and ask for a full outline here. And I've got some things that, let's see, some other prompts here I was going to use. Sorry, I've got on a different screen.
Just when we are doing this here, now we are using ChatGPT, but I'm interested to know, because you're the founder or co-founder of Plottr, which you can use to outline your book, right? So I'm interested to
Yeah.
know the difference a little bit. How would you use ChatGPT in combination with Plottr, or how would you do that if you, let's say you had writer's block, you wanted actually to use AI to help you with the book writing process. Let's say you're thinking of writing a nonfiction book in this case, not just fiction.
Yeah. So Plottr is a software that helps you to visually see your story. And right now there's no AI in it. So it's all what you put into it. But we're building some AI features into it that are really going to help you. But yeah, I would use it in connection with that. So I would actually keep all my notes that I'm keeping here. I would keep these in Plottr, for example. And then also you can take your outline from ChatGPT, copy and paste it, and put it in Plottr, and it helps you to see it visually. So even like your chapters, you can rearrange and move your chapters around in like a visual board, kind of like
Okay.
a user-friendly
It's like
spreadsheet, let's say.
connected. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Maybe you can showcase that later as well if you have it open. And what AI features are you guys coming with Plotter? Just curious to know.
Yeah. So right now they're focused on idea generation. So taking the story of your book or the idea of your book and giving you a bunch of ideas with just the click of a button, it'll do the prompt for you, and it'll say, okay, here's 5 ideas for this chapter of your book, or 5 ideas for people that should be in your book, or things like that. So it helps you with the idea generation and to get over writer's block.
You're basically adding the prompts behind the scenes a little bit, so people don't need to prompt too much. They actually get it based on just entering kind of the topic or something like that, or what they're interested in, and then you guys kind of do the rest. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So actually I can pull that in right now.
Yeah,
I've got it
showcase this so people
open.
can see what it looks like. I think it's a good segment to actually showcase how this can be used in combination, because yeah, as I said, it doesn't have the AI features for the writing. I mean, maybe at some point I gave some suggestions to how you can maybe what you can do
Yeah.
with it, which would be amazing. But as you see, it's visual, which is really cool. So
Yeah,
seems
it's
like
really visual. So this is one way that you could use it for a nonfiction book. The prompts, ignore this. This doesn't have anything to do with AI. This is one way that another person writes his nonfiction books. He calls them prompts. So he'll list out each chapter or each category. He'll color code them, and then like, okay, here's the digital nomad lifestyle, for example. So that's one prompt, and then he'll start writing the book in here.
mm,
Uh,
you
and
can
so that's
write
one
already
way
in
you can
there,
order.
or you write in a different. Oh, you can write also there.
So yeah, you could write the whole book. And actually, when I'm doing nonfiction, I usually write it within Plottr here, but
I
most
can
of the
see,
time,
as I told you, I see potential for just adding like right with AI into that, man. That's what, because then
oh
you
yeah,
have everything inside here. I think that's not too far off. I think you could integrate that to the software for sure.
yeah, just like a button right here, it
Yeah,
will help
like
you fill out
check
most of
how
the
Notion
writing.
and ClickUp is doing some of this. Like when they have like
Mm.
they have like Markdown, and they have like a little toggle that says write with AI, and they have different commands basically. So depending on what you want to do, maybe you want to rephrase something. I think something important for authors or writers in general is that you might phrase something in one way, but you want to change it up a little bit. Especially in my case, I'm a non-native English speaker. Sometimes I forget things. You know, I want to phrase things in a different way. Even as a native English speaker, I'm sure you don't remember everything, right? Or you don't think of everything
No,
all the time. So I would say it's really useful to have something that you can rephrase. And for now, if you wanted to rephrase, you can go to ChatGPT or something like that, or your favorite AI writer, and do that, because I think that's really useful. And also with Grammarly, I'm sure you might use Grammarly for book writing or for checking things,
yeah,
right? I think that's good. And another thing you might want to use if you're writing a book, especially with AI, which is really important, you want to fact check things. Especially if you're
yes,
taking some things from there, use originality.ai or content at scale. They have a detector as well, not just for blogging content at scale. So you can check there. I think OpenAI's the one they have is not that great. They usually, here's what I've seen from it. They say that if you're taking something from the AI, which is really interesting, it says that it might be written by a human. You know what I mean? And
oh yeah.
if it's like written more by a human, if you added your story, then it says it might be written by AI. It's like, I mean, it's really funny. But yeah, I
That's
saw some
so
tests
funny.
on this. Yeah, I saw a few tests. I don't know if that has changed, but originality.ai and content at scale is great for fact checking and plagiarism and all of that is really important, especially not just for blog writing, but just for a book. You don't want to have someone to call you out later that this was taken or your facts are wrong or something like that. So I think that's some useful AI tools if you are writing, for sure.
Yeah, actually, I was going to get into that towards the end there about
Okay, cool.
checking for originality and plagiarism. And
Yeah, I mean, let's continue with this. But I just thought of this right now, so I brought it up.
yes, no worries. Yeah, that's a really good point here. So another way that you could use Plottr here is you could have the different ideas within each chapter. And so we can create one right here. So what do we got over here? Mindfulness. So we'll click on mindfulness here, and then these are the things we got from ChatGPT. So for example, we'll just put it in there. And then, so a sub idea of mindfulness is, I don't know, meditation, maybe taking walks, things like that. So you can just split up your ideas here and just keep them organized like that. And maybe another chapter is, I see one, tech over there. So maybe tech is an important thing. And within that, I don't know, your laptop, your smart home, things like that. And so then you have all those organized, but it's really easy to move things around. So if you think maybe that chapter should come first, or if you want this to come later, you can just easily do that and move things around. So it makes it very visual and easy and kind of friendly and colorful and fun to use to keep your book organized. And then you can just copy and paste things right from ChatGPT in here. And yeah, if we had like a button to help me write this or something, it'd be really great tool.
Yeah, no,
for
I think
using AI.
that might be. I mean, can't add everything at the same time, but I think that's something that would be
Yeah,
useful for your customers for sure if they got stuck or something like that. Yeah, you can use it in combination as we are showing now. So I think that's still great. But if you add that, I'm sure it's gonna be even better. It's just like nice to
yeah,
have everything in one tool that is for a specific use case, I think. And I don't know if there is
exactly.
specific tools for authors that much with AI. I'm sure there's a bunch of tools out there, but I think you have an opportunity there to add it for sure. So, I want to see that
Yeah.
happen at some point.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. And then when you're done here, you can just export it to Word. Like we were talking about earlier, you got it in Word there, and you can, import that to anywhere, into Grammarly, into Google Docs, wherever you use it. And then you have your outline, you can just start writing from there. So it makes it really easy
Cool.
to do that.
Great.
So then some of our other, prompts here are around. So if you're writing a nonfiction book, you still want to use a story narrative to write your book, because humans love stories. Stories are really important to humans. And as you're telling your story about how you became a digital nomad, that's going to inspire other people. And it's using your experiences instead of just, having something spit out from an AI. And so telling it as a story is really valuable. So we can get that here. Let's see. I've got a prompt here that I want to use. We're going to change this one a little bit, though. Oh no, that's not the one. That was more for a romance one. We don't want that here. Yeah, here we go. I think this is the one that we want to use for this situation. Okay, so using these ideas, we're going to write an outline using the 3-act structure. So you could write your nonfiction book as if it were a 3-act story, So it's a very compelling way to write even nonfiction. So using these ideas, so we talked about, well, let's use one of these over here that we already got from, and you'll want to use your own experiences, your own ideas. So you'll type your own things in there, or be able to paste your own blog content in there. But we'll just use one of these. Just paste that in here. We'll have a 3-act plot structure. And I keep forgetting to put this in there, but you want to put this in there first. This you are New York Times bestselling, and then your genre. It gives you lots better, when you tell it what role you are, it gives you lots better results. So then when we do that one, so it's going to give us more of a detailed outline here. and he gives us act one, and it puts in kind of a story structure here. So you could tell your story of how you became a digital nomad in a story form and teach people along the way. It's not the only way to do it, right? But it's because story is so powerful for humans. They say that that's the best way to teach things. So,
Yeah.
so then you could take this and, if you're not using Plottr, right, you just put this in Microsoft Word or Google Docs, whatever tool you're using to write your story. But we could just also put this right into Plottr. So we've got maybe, here, we'll do
There's
another one.
organized. It's like that's kind of what I like with Plottr. It's pretty organized and
Yeah.
you don't lose your stuff so easily, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. And so actually this does have acts and chapters. So we're gonna act and chapter. So there's act one. So we'll just paste this from ChatGPT. So intro to Barcelona, I think it was called Barcelona's Charms or something. We'll just paste that in there. Oh no. So here we go. But the nice thing about it is you can just drag and drop.
Yeah, you can also take, for example, if you want, let's say we wanted to do it for me, I would probably take, as I said, my blog post, I have one, and I would take some kind of video I did or an audio recording where I spoke about it. And then I would have my structure because I think what's really important for a nonfiction book is that you're not just sharing. I mean, some books are sharing just the story. I like to also lead people with education, like they actually learn something so they can actually implement what I'm teaching, not just say, oh, Navid is great, or whatever. I think lead with story I think is great, but have always some lessons into the lesson built in and teaching into that. And I have like I think I don't remember, I think it's 10 steps to become a digital nomad or something like that. I don't remember exactly what I wrote there, but it's a while ago. I need to update that post. So but yeah, it's a really in-depth post. It's like 6,000-7,000 words or something like that. So it's like a good it's a good
Wow.
start.
Yeah.
It's a very good start, I think. Because I think you can have what did you say? How many words would a book be in order to be quite decent?
So about 50,000 words, somewhere on there. It could be more or less, but
Yeah, I think that's kind of similar to what Jan did because he ran Virtual Song Mastery for a little bit, and then he wrote the VSM book essentially, and he took my content I already had online and my cheat sheet and guide. I had like 20,000 plus words, something like that. I have written publicly about summits, maybe more. And he basically expanded on that a little bit or rewrote certain things. And then he had a book. I think he wrote his book with AI in 7 days, like complete from start to finish, and he didn't work full time on it. So
yeah.
yeah, I think he used Jasper at the time because that was before ChatGPT became available. Probably if he would do it today, I asked him before that, he would do it with ChatGPT in this way. And but
Yeah.
again, he had a base. He didn't just like come to the AI and say, "Hey, come up with everything for me." No, that's not how it works. You need to have your content, and then you can write it and expand on it and use AI as an assistant. I think that's how you should see it, not just replace you as a creator or as an author. That's not the best way forward.
Right. Definitely. Can it write the book for you? Yes. But how good is it going to
Yeah,
be?
exactly. It's not going to be very good if you just let it do it for you. I mean, yeah, it depends. Like you can say, is it good? Yeah, maybe if you're not a writer, it's gonna be better. Then maybe you could write it. Sure. I mean, it could be better, like in your eyes,
It
but
could be.
it's not gonna be a. Are you gonna be a? Could you become a bestseller with a book from AI? Sure, because Amazon is really easy to game the system and become a bestseller. You just have to show up in some categories and you're a bestseller. Are you going to be a New York Times bestselling author with this? Are you going to be a Wall Street Journal bestselling author? Probably not, because you get found out.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It depends on the time and attention you put into it.
Yeah.
And there's no easy mode. Just click one button and you get a book.
And also, you
But
probably most people who do this, like with just like at scale publishing these books, which I don't. If they want to do it, by all means, go for it. If that's what how they want to make money, but I feel like that's not really what you would share with an audience. These people are normally don't sharing this with their personal brand or something like that publicly. Maybe they
yeah,
aren't even sharing the niches they're in because they're like, It's kind of reminds me a little bit of the old days of the niche sites where people are like they're hiding a little bit behind like the, what do you call it? Like, they don't even have the nickname. What do you call this?
Oh, yeah. Pen name. Yeah.
Pen name, right? In author world, they call it pen name. So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot of people did that, and they're not proud of what they did. They're basically hiding, and they are not like putting themselves out there. So these books, yeah, sure, they can make some money, but that's something you're gonna put your name on. No, you're not. That's not gonna something
Right.
you're gonna be known for, because then they move on to the next thing. That's usually how it is. So don't be that person. That's why we put the title a little bit negative. To not
Yeah.
use
Not to.
ChatGPT to write your book. I think that's kind of fitting as well, because that's when we discussed this before, that's what you guys also believe in. So we have a similar philosophy around this.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. I like what you said. You wouldn't want to put your name on it because it's not going to be good quality. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it's not something you have your stories in. It's just something you do because you want to rank in Amazon or rank in Google or something like that. That's not a good way. So I'm glad we are showing a different way, a different approach. Maybe it's not, the approach to write, hundreds of books really quickly, but it's actually to write
Cool.
a really great book that you can put your name on, and actually leverage AI as an assistant to get it out.
Yeah, exactly. And then, so I was kind of wrap up here and say
Yeah.
at the end, so after you've got this outline here and maybe you have it, make some chapters for you. And this is like, if you don't have a blog already with a bunch of content, but if you do have a blog with a bunch of content or stuff that you've written or videos that you've made, this is going to, you just put this into ChatGPT and it's going to help you to organize it. And like you said, you could have it interview you and things like that. So that's a totally different story. That's going to be that's the best because it already has your experiences in it. But if you're just starting, then you definitely want to take this and you want to go to like Originality AI, like you said, and it will, when you do a check, it's going to say, okay, this is probably 96% sure that it was written by an AI if you just copy and paste from ChatGPT. But then you take it into some of these other tools like Grammarly, and there's this one good one that a lot of writers use called Pro Writing Aid, which is very similar. And that'll help you to rephrase things, reword things. And another one I've heard of is Quillbot. Have you heard of that
Yeah,
one or
Quillbot,
used
I've
that
heard
one?
of it. That's useful, actually. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's another one I've seen that it'll help you to reword things. And that way it won't be flagged as unoriginal, but also it's going to make it a much better story. You don't want it just to pass the Amazon test and, oh, it's not made by AI, but you want actually to make a good story. So
Yes. Awesome.
yeah. So there's a lot of other parts of this that we normally go into with fiction writers. And so those don't really apply here, but there's a lot of story structures and things like that that will help you get your reader expectations right. Because readers, even for nonfiction books and a book about digital nomad, for example, readers will come in with certain expectations, and ChatGPT might not get those right. And especially if you're just kind of copy pasting and it's the first time you've done it, you might not have it in the right order, or might not know what readers expect. So if you're familiar with reader expectations, or if you've read some of these books or things like that, it'll really help you to sculpt what ChatGPT gives you, so you can make it a better experience for the readers, and
Yeah.
they'll actually learn something. Because AI kind of takes the emotion out of it, the core of humanity just out of it, makes it sound robotic. But readers want the emotions, even for a nonfiction book about digital nomad. The reason they're going to get inspired is because of your emotional experience, like how an amazing experience it's been for you, and how it changed and transformed your life. That's what they want. That's what they want out of your book. That's how it's going to transfer their life.
Yeah, it's a good point, because you need to have that within it, like some kind of story arc through your book as well. Even though it's a nonfiction book, I think it's important, and I think ChatGPT, even if you told it to write your entire book, you need to still give it, what kind of steps do you have? You have your own process for doing certain things. You have your own method for how you accomplished that thing you are teaching in your nonfiction book. And you will have to give ChatGPT that information. Otherwise, it's gonna pull from the internet and it's not sure, or pull from the things they have been trained on, basically, depending on how you see it. So I
Yeah.
think that's not gonna be the same as actually giving them exactly your process. You can actually give them, okay, here's my steps. I want to break this down in this way. The more details you give, the better. And then you can start adding your story to that. You can say, okay, here I want a story. And then you can add, okay, I have, this is kind of my situation. Here is where I am right now. You can start explaining things to and having this back and forth conversation. And yeah, that's more time consuming, but that's kind of how you would do it the right way. But as I said, I would not probably go through this full process. Not as patient. So I would just record myself speaking. That takes my time, but I like doing things like that. I'm doing a lot of videos like this. So it's okay. So I like someone can interview me, or I can just have a set of questions, which might as well use ChatGPT for to come up with the outline or maybe some new ideas. Like maybe I can fill in some gaps into my content, which is really good for. So maybe I missed something in my original post about how to become a digital nomad. So I say, okay, maybe there's some other things that other people covered when it comes to becoming a digital nomad that I can add into my new updated guide or book that I want to come out with. So I think that's how I would personally use it. But yeah, then having a longer video or audio piece that we can actually take into the AI and work with.
Yeah, that's a great point. Like all these ideas that we came up with that ChatGPT gave us, then you can take each one of those and maybe record yourself speaking about each one of those.
Because then it's original. Then it's original 100%. Like if you, even though ChatGPT came up with the outline, if you can speak about it, that means you have thought leadership on these topics. Like you are knowledgeable. You're not, okay, you can make up a lot of stuff, right? But but you probably can't speak about it for that long if you make stuff up. So right. I would say, you can also learn about it, of course. This is another thing I've heard some experts share. If you don't have experience on a topic, train yourself on it. Go to different websites to learn a skill. Train yourself on this. If you don't know, you can read the top 10 copywriting books. If you don't know about a topic, then you can actually probably write copy for someone. You're not going to be the world-class copywriter, but you're going to be better than a lot of people. So you can start charging for your services. So that's 100% legit way of doing things, but you need to develop your expertise first, and then you have something to share, I believe. So that, or
yeah, exactly.
On that journey. Have you seen that kind of like the Tim Ferriss approach a little bit? Of course, he's much higher level now. He used to do this a lot more before, when he kind of took people on these experiments, and basically he was not an expert on the topic, but he learned from other experts. And I think he's still doing that to some extent, although now he's much more famous and things like that. But I think that is a great way. So you can take people on. So maybe you could write a book, but you feature other experts in that book, which brings me on to the kind of what I'm doing with summits as well. If you wanted to do a summit on a topic maybe you are not an expert on, and I've had people in my programs and people who have come into my world, they did that. They were not an expert on the topic they're hosting a virtual event on, but they brought experts onto that summit. They could repurpose that into a book. I've had students actually repurpose virtual summits into books, and you can use AI now to do that. There's so time consuming before. Before you needed to transcribe it like with rev.com and things like that. Super costly. Now you go to Descript or something like that, or Happy Scribe or whatever these platforms are called, and then you get all of this done for you. And then you can write your book really quickly and then take out the quotes from experts and things like that. And you have a really solid book with expertise. That's kind of how a lot of people did it. Like Tony Robbins, one of his books was based on advice from a lot of other people he learned from. One of his money books, I think he interviewed a lot of people I learned from. Tim Ferriss as well, with I think Tribal Mentors, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
I think it's Tribal Mentors, something like this. When he basically was based on his podcast. Lewis Howes did the same way for the School of Greatness, when he actually took out basically had a podcast. He distilled that into his book. Yeah, you have to still work with it to make it a really great book, but at least you have a lot of content from whatever it is that you have done already. You have all this content on your podcast, on your YouTube channel, so use it.
Yeah, you hit on something actually that I was hoping you realize, because I was going to say you could take this whole virtual summit and use ChatGPT and AI tools to help you turn this into a book. And then you've got another product
I hope
out
it's not
there.
obsolete afterwards. Like AI changing so quickly, so I'm not sure if I would do it. But it could be a book, might as well. It's not that complicated to do it, but I would say, okay, I probably do like free guides and stuff like that based on it, but a lot of this content can still be
Yeah.
repurposed. But like whatever topic you're on, let's say you're doing a summit on parenting or something like that, that can be the go-to guide to parenting, like 50 plus experts in this book. Like what other books feature 50 experts? You will stand out instantly. I think it's such a
Yeah.
smart way of co-creating a book like that. And then we want to, do you get the permission from them? Well, you kind of own this content. You can mention like they shouldn't be too worried because they're getting featured in a book, right? It's pretty nice from
Right.
for them. And you can tell them, be upfront with it, that you might repurpose this in different ways after your virtual event is over. I think it's fantastic and a great way
Yeah.
to go
You should.
about it. And now it's so much easier with AI. AI just simplify this. I just thought of this now when we were doing this session that I had like many years ago, a student who did a summit and she repurposed it into a book, but it was more time consuming back then. You had to transcribe it, you have to go through this process. And now you can just make a really a much better book with the help of AI if you have all this content.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I can definitely tell that, that you've got authority, going back to what we were talking there, because you said you can't talk very long if you don't know the topic very long or very well, but you can tell that you know a lot because you're just listing names and like, oh, this person did this and this person did that.
Yeah,
So making a video like that and then transcribing it, like there's a chapter in a book right there that you just gave me. So
yeah. Oh, it's interesting. I have some ideas based on that. I'm always getting, when I'm speaking to people like yourself and other experts, I'm always getting ideas. I think that's why it's such I
I'm
think
sure.
it's a great way to just connect with others like this. But do you have anything else you want to share on this before we kind of start to wrap this one up? I think it's really, really good. It's a great process.
No,
And
yeah.
showcased.
Yeah, that was kind of what I wanted to show you,
Yeah.
how not to write a book in different ways, using ChatGPT.
All right. Perfect. I think this was great. Do you want to share some other things to think about when it is that when you publish your book, maybe some other your methods you can use AI in this process, maybe some other ways you should not use AI. I don't know if you've thought of something as we are doing this session here, Cameron.
So getting it published on Amazon there's a lot of keywords and making the blurb and stuff. So there's tools out there. I can't remember the name of the tool that will help you.
I know one that is really
with
good.
keywords.
It's called KDP Rocket. I think it's really good. Do you know this one?
Yeah,
It's by
yeah,
Dave
yeah.
Chesson. I think he's
Dave
I know
Chesson.
him
Yep.
quite well. He has a great tool, so I would recommend that one. I don't know if they have AI or something built in, or they're working on that. But have you seen, like, can AI be used in this process to actually getting out to Amazon and making sure you do things correctly? I'm sure there are a lot of copy and text you need to add. I'm sure for this stuff it could be useful because you need to make sure you optimize the book to actually rank on Amazon and show up for the different keywords you want to show for.
Oh yeah, that's actually a really great way to use it. And it's really great for writers because a lot of times writers don't like writing the marketing copy, the blurbs that have to go on Amazon. We like writing books, but not that marketing copy. And so using KDB Rocket, they don't have AI in them. That's why I didn't mention it. But yeah, that's a great way to find keywords. And then you use those keywords in a prompt to say, hey, make me a blurb you put in a good amount of your story or your book in there and say, this is what the book is about. Here's the premise of it and things like that. And then use these keywords to make me a prompt, to make me an Amazon marketing copy blurb, and it'll spit. It might not be perfect the first time, like it usually isn't, but it'll give you a place to start, and then you tweak it a little bit, and it's a really great use,
Awesome.
great use for it.
And what do you say to authors who are a little bit skeptical about utilizing AI in their writing process or anything when it comes to the creative journey to publishing the books? Do you have anything to say to them, like in terms of like, are you positive, a little bit on the sidelines? What would you say, Cameron?
Yeah, I have talked to hundreds of authors actually about that, and I give this whole hour-long presentation, so I won't do that. But
Give
AI
us the
tool.
few-minute one or whatever you have for us.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't think you would say a builder is less of a builder because he uses a shovel or a backhoe, or a chef is less of a chef because he uses an electric mixer. And so AI is a tool, and yeah, you can use it the wrong way, but you can also use it to help you a lot. So It's very powerful. And the thing is, it's not going away. It's only going to get more and more powerful. So we have to learn to use it. Or if you're not comfortable with it, you can still write a great book without it. But I think it'll help you a lot if you do use it.
Yeah. No, we're gonna. I love this session because we have showed you a lot of practical advice what to think about when it comes to writing your book using AI, but also how to not use ChatGPT to write your book. It's really interesting. I think that's a kind of a unique way to put it. But I have one question for you here. What's the number one piece of advice that you would give creators to get started in the world of AI and start implementing this in their creator business and as an entrepreneur, solopreneur, whatever stage they're at currently?
Really, just experiment. Just don't be afraid to experiment. And ChatGPT makes it so easy. You don't have to. Nobody else is going to see how bad it comes out the first time. Just try things. And then get other people to review your stuff. Once you think it's in a good spot, get other people that have written books and also beta readers to read what you've written.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. You start yourself with ChatGPT as kind of your AI co-pilot in a way, and then
Right.
when you have written something, you can then ask your peers because then you get another set of eyes on it because that's not the robot eyes, right? So you can actually see, okay, is
Right.
it actually readable? Is that something I would be able to publish and make sure it's good enough, basically? And but I think that's great. I have one more question here. Is there something you
Okay.
wanted us to cover? Maybe a question that you wanted me to ask, but I didn't, or anything else you would like to share before we wrap this one up?
No, I mean, we didn't get into the fiction side of this.
Yeah,
That doesn't really apply to the authors. That's
sure.
something I'm really passionate about writing stories that change the world. But it's not really something that this audience needs as much. So that's all.
Yeah, I know you're really passionate about the fiction side of things. I think with
Yeah.
Brian Berney is like one of my students. He I think you guys covered a lot of ground on his fiction marketing summit and things like that. What he's doing. So
Uh,
yeah, I don't get too many of these. But if you are a fiction author, do let us know by all means, and sure we can bring Cameron back in that case. But I really enjoyed
yeah,
this
yeah.
one. Yeah, I really enjoyed this session, Cameron. Thanks so much for taking the time here. And if you have any takeaways and you're watching and listening into this, leave it in the comments below. We're gonna also leave a link to Plottr in the description. Thanks so much for coming on and being part of this event and supporting us as well, me and Jan on the AI for creators. I really appreciate it. So if you're interested, check out Plottr. I'm sure they're gonna add some AI features and things like that. And for now, you can use it really well to outline your book visually, as you saw in the demo here during this session. And if you have any other questions, you can let us know as well. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and I'll see you in the next one. Ciao for now.